run in Knoxville. Prize cards are coming down. 2 Lugia Vs in the prize cards for Andrew, but Brandon has 2 Crobat Vs in the prize cards. These cards are so pivotal for this list to draw through in the early mid-game to find the needed cards to complete your dominant neutralizing gas setup.
That big parasol is going to be pretty big in the prizes as well. That is the one way to stop the amazing rare Yveltal from being able to take that big knockout on an Eternatus VMAX. But we are going to see if this matchup is as bad as we used to think it was, because Eternatus versus Lugia in the finals here for Knoxville.
And Brandon actually starting with a Crobat V in the active spot back when this card was played across a much wider variety of decks.
This hand is not good, and I think we're just going to have to pass. And there's so many supporters and a Pokemon you can't play. Wow. It's
a Pokemon that's just so awkward when you start out like this. Players began running Crobat VMAX just to do something with it. Take away its low HP as a liability on the bench, make it into an attacker. And Brandon doesn't even have the turn 1 coughing with an attachment to try to set up Ascension.
Yeah, there's nothing going on in Brandon's hand right now. There's 2 Judge, 2 Marnie. And Andrew, essentially going first this match, even though you're going second, has the access to play all those supporters that
OG
he
first.
wants to. Yeah,
you get the supporter on top of it. Icing on the cake. Radiant Charizard is still, of course, a little bit awkward to have in the starting hand, but if Brandon's hand just continues to brick like this, we could see a little bit of a repeat of what we saw earlier in the broadcast, Jeremy, where you have the Radiant Charizard and you're just manually attaching to it, just getting it set up with an Archeops to claim an early 2 prizes.
Andrew looking here, just trying to figure out what is in the prize cards. Going to be eyeing down that Archeops just so you can discard it early, get it in there for that Summoning Star on the following turn. But of course, you're going to have to start with the basics.
When it comes to Lugia, this is the first step. No matter what happens, you have to complete your setup. It's completely tied to whether you can get these Archeops in play. And so with Evolution Incense finding 1, we have to be able to discard this. There's an Ultra Ball to discard 1 Archeops to the pile, and an Aurora Energy looking to be the second discard. It's a tough choice here.
Yeah, this hand is actually not doing Andrew any favors as well. You have that Ultra Ball to discard the Archeops, but you have to get that Lugia V. If you don't, you're going to rely on something like a Luminion to find a Professor's Research. Then you're discarding even more resources, and there's a possibility that you don't get the Lugia, and there's 2 in the prize cards. So that's even more detrimental.
Mm-hmm. And he already knows the writing's on the wall, and we know when you have 2 Lugias in the prizes, you have to only put 1 on the bench. There's only 3 Lugia V in this deck. So Brandon, fortunately, with this awkward start, isn't going to be able to do any kind of silly boss KO stuff. So Andrew might be okay with just the 1 Lugia V, but we still need to find the Lugia VSTAR to get that Summoning Star ability, and not to mention the second Archeops.
Yeah, this game is pretty laid out with the way both these players have drawn. We're going to have the energy attachment, but the hand's going to get shuffled in with those supporters in Brandon's hand in the first place. So it's really going to have to see if you can get that switch into the coughing to Ascension, and it's going to be a big 5 cards off this Marnie.
Yep, it's just a top deck, bench the Eternatus V, and now Marnie. Brandon's looking for a coughing, looking for an energy. He should try to set up the Ascension. Who knows if it's early enough in the game. Just going to go for a boost shake. Try to get that neutralizing gas. The problem with neutralizing gas, of course, is it only works when Weezing is in the active spot. We have to get this Crobat V out of the way.
Now off the 5 cards, I did see a quick ball, so that's going to unlock the hand thanks to Crobat V. This deck does play 4 of them. So even with the 1 in the prize cards and the 1 starting, you will have access to that draw power.
And he's going to look for it. Brandon's done this play time and time again, using Quick Ball to discard that Darkness energy, bringing it back with the Dark Patch.
It's risky, though, because the deck only plays 8 energy, and so while it does play into that item card in Dark Patch, being able to get in Dark Energy and attach it to one of your bench Dark Pokemon, a lot of the times you might need that to retreat into the Boost Shake. You might need that just to attach to the coughing to Ascension.
And so Brandon's going to take a quick count of the list once more. Does pick up that Crobat V. Super important to, once again, find these pieces. There's a lot of moving parts with this list. You think that once you get the Galarian Weezing, that's all you care about, but you still have to get there. Coughing, still a pretty small, basic Pokemon. Attach that energy to it. You have to get it into the active and use that Ascension attack to get the evolution into Galarian Weezing. So it's going to be a big Crobat V here. After that quick ball, there's only 4 cards in the hand, correct?
3.
3 cards, okay.
He will be able to play 2 of them down, the Temple of Sinnoh, and then I think
okay.
the Galarian Zigzagoon here.
And sometimes Brandon really does want to hold on to the Galarian Zigzagoon, of course, to set up plays for later on, combined with the poison. But for now, wants that extra card out of the deck. Finds a couple Ultra Balls here.
Had basically everything needed except for the way to get the Crobat V out of the active spot. Really was hoping for something like a Forest Seal Stone there. You do have a couple Ultra Ball, that Coughing, and an Energy, but you're not going to be able to get that neutralizing gas out this turn.
And with Crobat V stranded in the active, I wonder where Brandon is going to attach this energy. He's going to set up the Eternatus. Yeah, it's a very tough decision. Do I want to try to just attach to the Coughing now, try to play the Ascension? Do I attach to the Crobat V, try to get a retreat down, or do I just set up the Radiant Eternatus? Excuse me, no, this is regular Eternatus.
Regular Eternatus.
I'm so used to seeing the Radiant one, not even that. Nobody plays that one.
Yeah, it's just going to be that Dark Energy on that Eternatus V. The Eternatus VMAX is able to do a lot of damage with its Dread End attack, up to 270 if you have all your Dark Pokemon in play. So having that 1 damage counter on the Lugia V is very good for the future, just because Lugia VSTAR has 280 HP, and as long as you have a Temple of Sinnoh, that V-Guard energy won't matter.
Beautiful. And as we go over to Andrew,
speaking of beautiful, that
Oranguru
Lumineon
finds the Lumineon. The Oranguru has been popping off so much for these Lugia players. Let me tell you, they seem to find themselves in these tight spots constantly, and the Primate Wisdom bails them out. Seeing that 1 extra card from the top of the deck is the difference between a magnificent hand and a bricked hand. Professor's research being picked up from the Lumineon. Hopefully we can find the Archeops, the Lugia VSTAR, and then a way to get that Archeops into the discard pile.
I believe there is the 1 in there from the first turn. So it's really going to have to draw into another one and a way to discard it, like you said. Quick Ball, Ultra Ball, Aurora Energies are your options. But with an energy in hand, I think we're going to see that, 2 double turbo and a powerful colorless. Both of those are very important in this match.
So we can get the Choice Belt attached. We can attach the, what do you think, double turbo or powerful?
It's going to be the powerful Choice Belt on the Lugia, because that is the one way you can really take down an Eternatus VMAX later on in the game. And having to discard that double turbo energy is going to be pretty big, at least with attacking with this Radiant Charizard early. Yeah,
the Radiant Charizard, the Yveltal really love having that double turbo. Professor's research now for 7 cards. There's a Lugia VSTAR.
No.
Not seen an Archeops.
The Archeops is there, but the only way to discard it is the Aurora energy. But Andrew has already attached for the turn. So if he chooses to Summoning Star this turn, which is a possibility, you're only going to get that 1 Archeops. And with the Temple of Sinnoh in play,
he's considering it.
Temple of Sinnoh in play, you won't be able to attack this turn. So just pass the turn back. And it's smart heads-up thinking from Andrew.
Yeah, just leaving the Radiant Charizard in the active, recognizes that Brandon has this Crobat V that's somewhat stranded. And Brandon's going to go for the Judge. This means that Andrew's losing out on that Archeops that was in the hand, but hopefully just draws into Evolution Incense, something that can very easily fish that back out. And the Aurora Energy going back into the deck is always nice too.
And this is what Brandon has set up his deck to do in basically every game, is I'm going to Marnie or Judge you for 7 turns in a row and hope you do not draw out of it. And Brandon really needing to find an energy or a way to get the Crobat out of the active spot, and something like a Dark Patch now, because you attach to that Eternatus V on the bench. If you want to get Galarian Weezing going and get that severe poison up, you're going to need a lot of cards here.
So 4 off the Judge is where we start. Forest Seal Stone's also magnificent. Can use that VSTAR power. Get the Crobat V out of the active. Galarian Weezing is set up.
Oh no, this is the one awkward thing about the way Eternatus as a deck is. It plays 3 Temple of Sinnoh most of the time, just because that's the one way you can try to beat Lugia, is shut off those special energies from actually increasing your opponent's abilities and stuff like that. The one hiding dark, you have to discard it with retreat, even though it gives your Pokemon free retreat, but that's because it does not have an effect because of Temple of Sinnoh.
So after using the attach return to get the Crobat V out of the active spot, we have the attachment of the Forest Seal Stone to the second Crobat V, but Galarian Weezing not able to drop the severe poison this turn, but still has the neutralizing gas online.
Good things come to those who wait, and Andrew's hand is stacked here. Has the Serena to get the Galarian Weezing out of the active spot, the Evolution Incense to grab the Archeops, and then a Quick Ball to discard the Archeops, and now you have Summoning Star online.
It's all coming together. We can get the Galarian Weezing out of the active, and that opens up so much room for Andrew to get some attackers set up. Once you complete the establishment of these attacking Pokemon, the fact that the rest of your, bench doesn't have any abilities is totally acceptable. So here comes Serena first of all. Is there a target that you really want to bring up here? Maybe that Forest Seal Stone?
It's between that Forest Seal Stone and the Eternatus V. Both of them are kind of good
choice.
options. It just depends on how strong Brandon's hand is. So we're going to see the wrong right choice here.
It's one of those things that you can't tell which one is best, just whichever one proves to be the plus EV as we head through this game.
This is where basing everything on your opponent's body language is really important. If you see Brandon just kind of slumped in the chair a little bit, maybe didn't really like the hand off that judge, was not able to Crobat last turn, take away that Forest Seal Stone, take away some of the options that he might have, and then maybe the Eternatus V won't even do anything.
So that's the read that Andrew decides to go with. Crobat V with that Forest Seal Stone in the active. Evolution Incense to find the Archeops, discards it with the Quick Ball. Gonna search through the deck one more time, can thin an extra card. Manaphy being pulled to the top.
Just another way to thin the deck. You can use that other Quick Ball if you want. Just keep it for the following turn. And this is what Andrew actually didn't get to do too much in the top 4 match against Raul. All 3 games had just 1 Archeops in play. Finally now having 2 and desperately needs it in this matchup.
Now with 2 Archeops, the Primal Turbo is online. Just a couple more energies to set up this Lugia VSTAR. We might even see that attachment to the Charizard as well to retreat that out of the active spot. Do we want to just fully support this and try to use it as an attacker? We have to get Temple of Sinnoh out of the way, though, so that Heat Energy and the Aurora Energy can actually provide that, that fire that it needs.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure if Andrew can pull it off with the way the hand is. You can get 2 energy on that Lugia, but then you need 3 energy to retreat the Radiant Charizard.
Oh yeah, he's chunky.
Since you can't use double colorless because of the Temple of Sinnoh, it just counts as 1 energy. You'd have to attach from hand, but I think Andrew has it.
So that's Primal Turbo to set up the Lugia VSTAR. 2 capture energies going onto the Radiant Charizard. And these are energies that you have to be okay with losing if you're going to go for the full retreat here. One more attached return. What's in the hand?
We knew his hand. He did not have it. So there's just a pass of the turn. And with this game, oh, wow. That was a big turn for Brandon. Keeping that Forest Seal Stone in play gives a glimmer of hope. The Archeops are already down, but there's still a chance.
There is, of course, the Judge in hand as well. Can see a few cards before things go too far. Opts for the escape rope first. Just going to get this Crobat V out of the active spot. Andrew has to promote first. Is Brandon going to try to promote the Eternatus V here to go for an aggressive play, or just wants to put up the neutralizing gas?
It's really going to be dependent on the hand, but Weezing can buy you time. And especially if something like an Archeops or that Oranguru get in the active spot, the poison damage will add up, especially if Andrew does not draw an energy just to retreat.
This is such a tough call. Opts for the Archeops. Going to give up one of these engine Pokemon from the bench. Doesn't even consider the Oranguru. Is saying, well, I've got Radiant Charizard with some energy on it. I've got Lugia VSTAR with some energy on it. I should be good to go. And he got a lot of experience against Rahul playing with just 1 Archeops.
That is true. And Brandon opted for the Eternatus V to the active spot, so is going to need a lot of cards here off this morning yet again.
After that disruption, draws 5 new cards. I'm seeing some Ultra Balls there, but not much else. We still need the Eternatus VMAX and 1 more energy attachment to get that Dread End online.
Well, you have that Ultra Ball for the VMAX, and then
Forest Seal Stone.
Yep.
It is being activated here, searching the deck for 1 card of his choice. Brandon is going to find the missing piece to tie his strategy for this turn together. It's going to be a Dark Energy.
It's
just
a little
double-checking the
awkward,
hand.
The way you have to sequence this, because you need 3 cards or so.
Mm-hmm.
The Crobat, the Energy, and the Eternatus VMAX. And at least with the way the hand is, you have double Ultra Ball. So we might see this whole hand hit the discard. Or no, he's just discarding the other one.
Okay, Ultra Ball, gets rid of the coughing, grabs the Eternatus VMAX, and the evolution is online. Now we've got some more bench spaces to work with, which is very important for this list. Brandon does have 2 Crobat V still in the prizes. So the card draw that you need to really supplement this turn and set yourself up for next turn, not really online. Just going to fully bench this Radiant, Hisuian Sneasler, and the coughing to get max damage on the Dread End. 1 prize over to Brandon Salazar. Crobat V looks to be the pick.
Which is huge.
Massive.
0 cards in hand, able to grab that out of the deck. Now you just have to fade a knockout here.
Yeah, Lugia VSTAR was set up from long ago, has the V-Guard energy, 1 powerful colorless energy, and the Choice Belt. We have to get this Temple of Sinnoh out of play and a bunch of powerful energies attached to take down the big HP of Eternatus VMAX.
Well, even then, it's still not going to be enough. 340.
Whew.
Lugia has the ability to go to 330.
Oh, no.
So it's all reliant on that Yveltal with its amazing destruction attack. It's just, now you can't charge it up in 1 turn with only 1 Archeops.
And the Quick Ball, the Yveltal is being looked at here, but once you have to have it survive 1 turn after you manually attach, or just use the Primal Turbo on it, and it's going to be a massive telegraph to Brandon Salazar that amazing destruction is coming. So he's going to maybe try to boss that up, or just retreat the Eternatus VMAX to the bench, make it a little bit harder to gain access to, especially with that neutralizing gas potentially coming back online.
Looks like that's what Andrew is doing, and the one way to get rid of the Temple of Sinnoh is just the Tempest Dive. And with that attack, you can get rid of the stadium, and that'll unlock your special energies.
Holding on to the double turbo in hand is also pretty risky, because you know the Marnie and the Judge chain keeps going on.
Boss's orders off the top. Opts not to...
Players have become so used to holding these resources for next turn, trying to set up their next play with Oranguru, and the player base has adapted by using Judge. Brandon Salazar has to get another disruptive supporter off of this next top deck, and hopefully the Crobat. I believe that was another Zigzagoon drawn off the top.
Well, if so, you still need the Temple of Sinnoh to be able to take the knockout here, or something like a Choice Belt. And drawing 5 cards here. There's the Choice Belt. Now just needs the full bench, and I think with the Quick Ball, we'll be able to do that.
It's all coming together with Andrew losing out on the Lugia VSTAR. The Yveltal comes through to clean up those 3 prizes on the Eternatus VMAX, but you've already kind of put 2 turns worth of value into this, and once this big attacker goes down, Brandon can just start pivoting into the Severe Poison and the Radiant Sneasler. And as we know, Lugia does not have a lot of pivoting cards, a lot of switching cards. That Poison is going to stick for a few turns.
Now, Brandon's hand is pretty good here. The 1 bench space left. You're going to Quick Ball for the Eternatus V because you need a response to that Yveltal. If that Yveltal is able to stick around, it just takes knockout after knockout after knockout. So with the Eternatus V, there's a Dark Patch in hand. So you can Dark Patch, get an energy on there, even though there's not another one in hand. You're still able to potentially respond next turn.
And Brandon has been forced to take a lot of these edgy plays where the difference between the play working out or not comes down to a few key top decks. There's not so much direct search in this list that a lot of other decks in the format are used to having. So we're getting a nice reshuffling on the bench, just so we get a better count of how many dark Pokemon are in play for the Dread End. And we have room here, of course, for the Eternatus V. The Dark Patch does indeed come through, as you said, Jeremy. There's the attachment off of the Dark Patch from the discard pile, and now we just have to close out the rest of this turn.
Now we just need to count our multiples of 3.
Plus the choice belt, right? The choice
It's a
belt is
multiple
still
of
needed?
3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. With a full bench with the Eternatus VMAX, it does 270 damage, counting itself, and then a choice belt 300 minus the 30 from the V-Guard energy, and with that 10 damage from that turn 1 headbutt tantrum is able to take the knockout. Brandon Salazar going down to 3 prizes now.
Beautiful.
And Hedrick has the opportunity to respond with the Radiant Charizard, but if you do, that will open up something like a Galarian Weezing because that Radiant Charizard can't attack 2 turns in a row.
Also, again, has the 3 retreat cost, so it's just going to kind of be stranded in the active. And Brandon held on to that second Galarian Zigzagoon in the hand to try to set up another cheeky play.
No, he ended up discarding it.
Oh,
with
it went
quick
off
ball.
screen.
Yeah.
I didn't see. I thought that he had benched it way off to the side. Okay, I see now. Jeremy, see, I'm glad that I've got you here on the desk with me because you are the Eternatus expert. You know this deck. This is your baby, and it's in the finals. I know you're so proud right now.
I am, and Brandon is clawing back from what seemed like a pretty bad first couple of turns here.
Yeah, Radiant Charizard, you know, this was the poster child for comebacks back in the day when it first kind of hit the scene. And it's going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting once more to keep Andrew in the running in the first game of this best of 3 for the finals. There's the Heat Fire Energy attached. And with Brandon having taken 3 prizes, that excited heart is all ready to go.
Listen, Radiant Charizard spits fire hot enough to melt boulders, and it's gonna melt an Eternatus VMAX here soon.
3 prizes going over to Andrew once this attack is announced, and they have to be some bangers. Going to go for the Primate Wisdom just to see one more card before announcing. Ooh, wait, and the double turbo going onto the Yveltal.
That's very important, actually.
Yeah, so it doesn't get shuffled back into the deck with Marnie or Judge. And there's the attack. Combustion Blast earning 3 prizes. Andrew Hedrick evening things up. Brandon has to respond. He already planned for this contingency by setting up the Eternatus V with the Dark Patch.
And one thing to point out, too, with Brandon discarding those 3 Crobat V from the bench, since Eternatus VMAX is no longer in play, you can't have 8 bench Pokemon. So you discard first and then you promote. And clearing off some easy prizes for Andrew, which is pretty good.
And this means that when the second Eternatus VMAX does evolve, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to power up that Dread and with having enough Darkness Pokemon. Galarian Weezing now in the active with Neutralizing Gas means that this one Archeops here has no abilities. This also turns off Excited Heart. Maybe with a manual attachment, we can still keep things going, of course.
Yeah, we're going to need to see another Temple of Sinnoh here just to shut off the possibility of any sort of attack from Andrew. All of the Pokemon require those colored energies now. Those Lugias are gone. And thankfully, at least, Brandon has a Dark Energy, is going to be able to Severe Poison. And with the help of the Radiant Hisui and Sneasler, we'll be able to get 6 damage counters in between turns.
And that chip damage adds up so much over time. We saw it in the top 4 match, and even the 1 damage counter from the Zigzagoon earlier in this first game had massive implications for taking those prizes later on. Boss's orders coming through. A Rangaroo is the target being brought up to the active, and now the Severe Poison comes through. This is another Pokemon that's pretty difficult to retreat. No Temple of Sinnoh, however, so if we can find another double turbo to attach. I don't even know if there is one more.
What is Andrew doing over here? Top decks another Boss's Orders. That's the 3rd switch effect. And this will help get rid of the neutralizing gas if he chooses to. You can bring up that Eternatus V and knock it out here. The Primal Turbo is going to search out for some energies. You can retreat the Rangaroo, and Brandon's going to be left with just Weezings to play. And I don't know if it's going to be enough.
We need one more energy in the deck. I see an Aurora there. Is there a better energy that we can use for this attach and retreat play? He's running pretty low on resources at this point.
All the, like, quote-unquote bad ones are in the hand, so we'll have the energy attachment from hand to be able to retreat.
Okay.
I say that there's just one capture energy.
Yeah, this is what happens with Lugia. If you don't just get a massive early lead, your opponent's kind of able to drag the game out for a long time. You're really scraping the bottom of the barrel, looking for these energies, trying to set up attacks. Radiant Charizard is so strong in that regard because it requires less and less energy as the game goes on. Lumineon V and its Aqua Return haven't really been able to be used at all over the course of this game. With Oranguru getting back onto the bench, if a special energy is drawn, we can put that back into the deck. After the Ultra Ball is used, Lugia VSTAR is found just to thin the deck a little bit more. And there is the attach.
And
has to look and fail.
Yeah, you still have to shuffle with capture energy if you have a bench space open. It's just part of the card. But now has enough to retreat. We'll be able to take the knockout with the Radiant Charizard here, going down to one prize card and setting up the last knockout with an amazing destruction.
The Yveltal was prepped from so long ago, and Brandon just didn't have the flexibility to respond to these plays and head these attacking Pokemon off at the pass. Combustion Blast comes through, 250 damage. Eternatus V going to go down. 2 prizes to Andrew Hedrick. 1 more prize after taking game 1 of this best of 3 in the Knoxville finals. Brandon just going to take a quick look here through the discard pile still, evaluating what Andrew's resources are. What special energies do you have left? Turner just goes to the discard pile, and Brandon promotes Galarian Wheezing, neutralizing gas, back online. So many switching effects with those boss's orders already used by Andrew. Is he going to be able to use this final ability to punch through against the Wheezing?
Does play 3 Boss's Orders and 1 Serena, so still 1 more copy of Boss's Orders left in the deck. All Brandon has is that severe poison.
So we just have to attach 1 more Aurora energy to the Yveltal. We can just hard retreat the Radiant Charizard, right?
Yep, and I think it's going to have to be off this 5-card Marnie to try to find an energy here. Going to thin down the hand and the deck as best as you can.
Yeah, because the Heat Fire was already attached to the Radiant Charizard, we have to find that Aurora energy to fill the attack requirement for Yveltal. Combustion Blast can't be used 2 turns in a row. This attack must come through now.
You're going to grab a Pokemon because it's going to go to the bottom of the deck with Marnie, so it's just increasing your odds ever so slightly. All the percentage points matter here.
5 cards to find Aurora energy. That's all Andrew Hedrick needs to take this last prize. Brandon can only sit by and wait. The Marnie comes down. The hand is shuffled, put down to the bottom of the deck. 5 cards off the top. One of them needs to be an Aurora. I'm not sure of the percentage here, but Andrew did everything he could to manipulate it in his favor. 5 big cards. Do we see it?
No. Just a bunch of supporters. But you got the boss's orders for next turn. And with the way the board is set up for Brandon, is not able to really take a knockout other than just passing the turn with that Radiant Charizard getting KO'd with the poison damage.
Yeah, the Eternatus are already knocked out. We're just relying on neutralizing gas and poison to slowly take knockouts. But at this point, when your opponent only has 1 prize left, you can't take a wait-and-see line like that. Drapion V in the hand, not really going to do much in this matchup. Just doing a small cleanup there of the prize. Another Marnie.
Hey, it gets rid of that last boss's orders to the bottom of the deck, but now you run the risk. Andrew gets to dig deeper for that Aurora energy.
4 cards now, and then 1 off the top for the draw.
It's not in hand again, and
Temple
there
of
is
Sinnoh!
it. The Temple of Sinnoh able to shut off the Aurora energies. Exactly the perfect time for that stadium card for Brandon.
So after the severe poison finally takes down Radiant Charizard, that's 1 more prize to Brandon Salazar, and Andrew Hedrick can promote here. There is the Lost Vacuum in hand to get rid of this Temple of Sinnoh. So now we just still have to find the Aurora energy. Is that a Professor's Research in hand?
No, it's the Irida.
Oof.
I think you have to promote the Oranguru and kind of buy yourself another turn, because if you promote that Yveltal, it's running the risk of your only attacker left getting knocked out in the next couple turns.
That is a fine play, especially because we know Brandon doesn't really have enough threat potential to like take 2 prizes against this Lumineon V.
Or you could just bring it up in an active, rip that Aurora energy off the top.
Like a god! Was there ever any doubt? Lost Vacuum, Lost Zones, the Temple of Sinnoh. The Aurora energy comes through for amazing destruction on Galarian Weezing to take the final prize of Game 1.
I'm sorry, y'all. I read a little ahead on the script. Didn't mean to spoil it for everyone out there at home in the crowd. What a match. What a top deck. Andrew Hedrick is 1 game away from going back-to-back.
The first time we're ever going to see a back-to-back regional champion like this on our circuit. And these events are so massive in the modern era to take down all these players. It's so clutch to see.
Not the first time to do it, though, because back in the past, the great Jimmy Pendarvis was able to
What year was that?
I can't remember the year, but
Chip will know. We'll ask Chip later, but I don't want to sell anybody short. It's been a long time, we'll say, since we've had a back-to-back champion, and Andrew Hedrick has been running hot this entire tournament. This is the player that was able to take a win off of him earlier in the Swiss round, so now they're shuffling the cards, trying again. 1 game off of claiming this finals in Knoxville. Brandon shaking his head a little bit, still trying to keep in the game. The strategy did work in that first game. It was just a little bit too slow. If we can get the boost shake or something, get that Weezing down just a little bit faster, it could spell the difference between victory and defeat in game 2.
Yeah, it was 2019, so 4 years ago for Jimmy Pendarvis, and then Caleb Gedimer also won 2 in a row in the same year.
Okay, so he's joining the pantheon of two-time back-to-back champions here.
Now, I am pretty excited how close Brandon was able to make that game, especially with 2 Crobat V in the prize cards, and then I think the game-deciding card, that big Paracel in the top of those prize cards. If that tool was anywhere for Brandon throughout that game, that Amazing Destruction was not doing anything.
Exactly. The Lost Vacuum, you can't pick one or the other. You're just completely done. And when we go into game number 2, the players are shuffling immensely. Everything is into these draws, into these prize cards. You've got to put your heart and soul into shuffling these. Make sure the deck is completely mixed, especially with Lugia, right? You get that handful of special energies, you're done. You're done.
Yeah, we saw that happen with Connor Fenton. Just a handful of 5 special energies and having to pass the turn. Now we're hoping for some quality hands here, and at least looking at Brandon's, that's pretty good for Sealstone. A couple coughing to go along with a Crobat V. Meanwhile,
nicely done.
I think you cursed Andrew a little bit. There is 4 special energies in that hand, Adam.
Uh-oh. Lugia VSTAR in the prizes. Ultra Ball.
Serena and Boss's orders in the prize cards. That means Andrew's only going to have 2 outs in the deck to get around that Galarian Weezing with its neutralizing gas.
Eternatus VMAX, both of them in the prize cards as well.
Thankfully, Brandon does play 3 copies of it, so...
Okay, got the 3/3 line.
It's going to be a premium, though.
Temple of Sinnoh being eyeballed here, double coughing down as well. We have to get a Pokemon V in play to use the Forest Seal Stone. But Brandon is a player that's really liked to sit on the Forest Seal Stone for the mid-late game when that really one missing card is so important to tie the rest of your turn together. Not going to like try to spam it out early to find that boost shake or get some other dark energy.
Well, you say that, but finding boost shake on turn 1 with that Forest Seal Stone is exactly what you play it for. That one of boost shake, that's the only way to find it. And if
I would go for it.
That and shut off abilities before Andrew even gets a turn, things are going to be looking pretty good for this Galarian Weezing. But no, just Brandon passing the turn.
Very passive, very respectful, doesn't want to extend. Wants to see how Andrew's hand is looking, I would say. Get a read on if your opponent's hand is kind of bricky. Maybe you know whether you should be following up with Judges or Marnies after you get that ability lockdown.
I think we're going to see the Aurora energy just to be able to discard the Archeops in the hand. You can also, you know, Rain Splash for 20 damage, but it's not really going to be something you're going to continue on. And
the last couple regionals, you know, we've seen some rare attacks. We had the during OCIC, we saw Scratch on Sableye, and we had Rollout earlier.
No, we almost had Rollout earlier.
Oh, yeah. Man, don't remind me.
There's that boost shake off of the Marnie, and Brandon actually getting a little punished for keeping the hand and not playing anything.
Yeah, I think he was waiting for Andrew to maybe jump through some hoops, getting the Archeops into the hand, discarding a lot of resources to do so, and then just slam that gate shut with the neutralizing gas. Didn't play towards the high roll of just benching the Crobat V, maybe only drawing 1 or 2 cards just to get the Forest Sealstone target into turn 1 boost shake. And we'll see if by not going for that specific turn 1 play, if Andrew is going to be able to stabilize.
Now, it does have the quick ball for that Lugia V, but other than that, the hand, can you guess what's in the hand, Adam?
Special energy.
Yeah, that's right.
Terrible shame.
It is not going to be a good couple of turns, but
we just got to find Guru, right? Just slowly put those back in the deck one at a time, one at a time.
If you're able to use abilities, Adam. But at least you can hope that with your opponent, the only supporters they're really playing is Marnie or Judge, so maybe you can get bailed out.
That's the trick. Andrew just has to give off the vibes of this hand is amazing. I definitely want to keep this hand. Please don't play a disruptive supporter. That's all Brandon can do is just play Marnie and Judge every turn regardless of hand quality.
Yep, Andrew has to have the confidence of the banana pudding in him.
This is the moment of truth. It's game number 2. If Andrew can complete the setup, it's going to be so big, even by losing out on those early resources, right? Again, 1 boss, 1 Serena in the prizes. It's a lot harder to pivot around the Galarian Weezing like we saw in the first game.
What? Not even a rain splash. I want my money back.
Missing damage. I can't believe it. So inefficient. It's Masters Finals. You got to get every little bit of damage you can.
No. Brandon does have a pretty good hand off of this Marnie. We'll be able to at least get a Galarian Weezing out thanks to that boost shake if no Dark Energy is found.
Here we go. Gets rid of the Judge. Crobat V being found.
Yeah, it's always awkward when your opponent
has... So there's 2 cards in the hand right now?
For Brandon?
Yes.
I believe...
So this is going to be a pretty decent Dark asset regardless. One of them is the boost shake. Forest Sealstone is going to be somewhere in the deck now after that shuffle from the quick ball.
But you never want to really judge or Marnie your opponent when they just have 3 cards and didn't really do much. But the boss's orders here is actually pretty big because now if you get that Dark Energy, you can severe poison and get this Lugia softened up for an Eternatus VMAX later on.
Oh, doesn't like he found it. No Dark Patch either. There's no Dark Energy in the discard pile.
And with that, looking like it may just be a boost shake to get the evolution on the benched Coughing. And
this has been happening to Brandon over and over again, where you're just 1 card off of doing the specific play that you need to really cement your position in the match. And here in game number 2, where even though we're turning off the abilities, you're losing out on that severe poison. It's so much free damage that you get to punish your opponent for having a slow setup.
Now, I do like playing the Temple of Sinnoh because it shuts off the out of capture energy, but Andrew can still read the wind here and try to draw boss's orders to get out of this Weezing lock.
Double Turbo Energy attached does pay for that attack. A Rangaroo being discarded for Read the Wind, drawing 3 cards, and it's back over to Brandon. Forest Sealstone found off the top, attaches immediately to the Crobat V, and what is the card of choice here?
You're going to need a Dark Energy, you're going to need that Radiant, Hisuian Sneasler on the bench just so you can increase your damage output. But for right now, we're just going to see that Dark asset. Still nothing much. You got that Ultra Ball for that Radiant Sneasler, but you're going to have to lose a lot of resources. And if you go that route, you don't have an Eternatus V on the bench.
Yep.
Because you need to get that out for the VMAX.
So Brandon is this is a massive fork in the road. Now at this point, you're fully into the disruptive play of the Galarian Weezing, and you can't have the rest of your setups to have the pressure of the Eternatus and the Eternatus VMAX as attackers once the Weezing gets out of this active. Eternatus V is found, so no Radiant Sneasler. Only 1 Dark asset per turn. It's going to be a Marnie here. Off of these 5 cards, Brandon has to find that energy.
Yeah, you have to Marnie Even though Andrew didn't play anything, just read the wind, it's 3 cards that you don't know. You knew the 3 cards prior didn't do anything, but those 3 cards, they could be a boss.
And after 5 cards to judge, there's an energy. Okay. So we're back in business. We can at least get Severe Poison down. No Radiant Sneasler in the mix for now. And when you don't get the Eternatus VMAX, you're also limiting on your bench size. So the Crobat Vs are going to be out of the equation. And don't forget, there's 2 VMAXs in the prizes. Brandon has to get a little bit of momentum before the rest of the deck comes online.
Yeah, this 5th bench spot is going to be a premium for sure, because if you bench that Eternatus V or something like the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler, you're not going to be able to kind of Crobat V out of a bad hand later on. You're going to be reliant on finding that Eternatus VMAX. And like you said, 2 in the prize cards, that's a tall order for sure.
But he's going to go for it anyway. There's the attachment and the Severe Poison onto Lugia V. 4 damage counters onto that Pokemon, 220 HP. It's going to be a while before this goes down. Powerful colorless energy attached. Still, its abilities gone because of Temple of Sinnoh. So just 2 colorless energies attached to Lugia V.
Andrew off the Marnie, drawing nothing useful here. We'll have to just read the wind yet again.
At the very least, we can discard the Archeops. 3 cards drawn, a new lease on life. Brandon Salazar has been very respectful of the top deck potential from Andrew. He's been running hot all this weekend, and he's respecting the protagonist energy, right? Every time you see some cards that I think might change the outcome of the situation I put you in, I've got to try to play a disruptive supporter, have you shuffle that hand back in, and try to keep you locked down. And with that being said, plays the Judge. Really unfortunate as well, because that Radiant Sneasler was in the hand, but there's no bench space.
Yeah, we maybe could have seen the 4 Sealstone to fetch out that Eternatus VMAX. Then you get the Radiant Sneasler onto the bench. But anytime...
I think 1 VMAX was discarded.
Was it?
I'd have to double check, but I feel like I saw that out of the corner of my eye, Jeremy. So Brandon might be on the line of just trying to race down and take some prizes and then just get that Eternatus VMAX.
It'll be big if true, but honestly, with the Judge, anytime your opponent draws more than 1 card in a turn, you're going to be having them shuffle their hand back and draw 4. You are not allowed to have more than 5 cards against a Galarian Weezing Eternatus deck.
And over again, Lugia has been in a consistent position as well, where the hand is pretty dead, and then Oranguru turns it back online. But Oranguru was discarded to read the wind because the neutralizing gas is turning that off anyway. You just have to rely on pure top decks. Do it old school style. Just draw what you need, Andrew. It can't be that hard, right? just draw.
Out of the 4 cards here, it's a little bit of an awkward discard. Going to have to discard that Radiant Hisuian Sneasler with the Ultra Ball just so you can find that Eternatus VMAX. But is it?
Yeah, there's 2 in the prizes, and I think 1 was discarded earlier.
You were right. Oh, no. That means this bench is full, and that second Eternatus V means you cannot Crobat out of this hand.
Oh, Brandon recognizing, maybe just misremembered the prizes after taking the early count this far into the tournament. You know, the games start to run together. The mental starts to get broken down. It was a pretty long game in the top 4, that best of 3, very taxing. And now he's kind of worked himself into a corner.
Yeah, well, if you think about it, Brandon didn't really play too many search cards in the beginning of the game. I think the first one was to discard that Eternatus VMAX. You're like, I play 3. I'm fine.
Yeah, you got the 3/3 line, but now there's 2 in the prizes. Absolutely devastating. This means the bench is completely gummed up. The Radiant Hisuian Sneasler has also been discarded. Brandon has to fail the Ultra Ball. We just have to kick back and wait for Severe Poison to do its job and hope that out of the first 2 prizes that Brandon grabs, we get that VMAX before it's too late.
The one thing, though, is we got a peek at Andrew's hand, and there is one of those boss's orders. Just needs a Lugia VSTAR to be able to Summoning Star this turn, and with the Quick Ball can find something like Luminion to get... Or no, you can't Luminion this turn because of the boss's orders. awkward hand for sure from Andrew, yet again, with 3 special energies.
Even when you have the answer to Wheezing, you usually have to give up something very important to do so, and you can't take advantage of that reprieve to get your strategy back on track. Quick Ball going to discard the Heat Fire energy.
Yeah, this is where you're going to have to kind of pivot your game plan a little bit. We might see... It's awkward. You can get a Lugia V with this just because the one in the active will eventually get knocked out soon if nothing happens. But you can also Boss's Orders up an Eternatus V, sensing some kind of weakness from Brandon with not having that VMAX. That means there's 1 card in hand. You can kind of guess that it was a Crobat V with the way Brandon discarded the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler and the Quick Ball.
Very true. If Andrew's got that heads-up play still in mind, you get that read on the opponent, and you can sculpt your lines accordingly. Look in the discard pile. We do see the VMAX there. Absolutely heartbreaking. And after that Lugia V is found, we have the manual attachment of the Capture Energy. Temple of Sinnoh going to cancel that out, but still, there's 3 energies attached to the Lugia V. And read the wind to discard the Aurora energy and draw 3 more. Severe Poison still ticking. And back over to Brandon. What card even helps him in this situation? The bench is full.
It's not another Crobat V, I can tell you that. And that is what Brandon's hand is chock full of. And with the way Andrew drew those 3 cards with Read the Wind, the VSTAR was found, the Pumpkaboo was found. So if you want to get rid of that
he's about
Temple
to blow
of
this
Sinnoh,
game wide open. But Brandon, he's just going to sit back. He just has to play.
And this is where you need that extra damage from that Radiant Hisuian Sneasler. The Lugia V is actually going to survive another turn of poison, only 160 damage. That means it's going to leave 20 HP left before it's going to get evolved into that V-Star.
Retreating this or evolving, it's going to cure that poison, but we can evolve right now once we get rid of the... Do we have a way to get this Galarian Wheezing out of the active spot?
The boss's orders in hand.
There we go. That's right, you said that. Yeah, you've got the whole turn mapped out. You give me the script. Hey, you're hogging the script.
Now you can boss's orders. You can bring up that Crobat with the Forest Sealstone. That shuts off another avenue. And
this was another, yeah, Brandon loves to sit on this Forest Sealstone for so long, but now he's getting punished for not taking advantage of this search ability. That important card is going to be offline. He only runs 1 copy.
2 copies.
Oh, my mistake, 2 copies. My goodness, this is too hype for me. There's so much on the line that I'm just getting lost in the sauce, Jeremy. You got to help me. I'm drowning over here.
Don't worry. I'll save you. I got some lifeguard skills.
But after that after the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler got discarded, Brandon also lost out on so much free damage on the Severe Poison. Now the Galarian Wheezing is being put back onto the bench with boss's orders. This opens up the Summoning Star ability. Archeops is now down. We're getting attackers up and running. Even though no prizes have been taken so far in this game, Andrew is about to start running away with this one. The Crobat V is going to offer up 2 prizes easily, and then there's just a lot of easy targets on the bench for Brandon Salazar. It'll open up 1 spot for one of the Crobat Vs in hand, but you still have to figure out what to do. Just going to go for the Tempest Dive here.
And what a 2 prize cards to pull. The boss's orders and the Serena. Now Brandon is going to be having to find a Judge or a Marnie to get things going yet again. You can Dark Asset to draw some cards, but even with the Severe Poison, you're not taking a knockout yet again on the Lugia.
There's the Crobat V coming through. Dark Asset up to 6, finds a Dark Energy to attach. But again, no Eternatus VMAX. No attackers to really follow up with this Galarian Wheezing. It's just a matter of hoping the poison sticks after Severe Poison and praying that there is no other boss's orders. We thought that Andrew would be in a much stickier position in this game because there is 1 boss's orders and 1 Serena in the prizes, but at the end of the day, it does not matter. He's already got multiple attackers ready to go. It's just going to be another attach here.
This is
not much for Brandon to do.
Rough Any time your opponent is able to break through that neutralizing gas and get the summoning star off, your win percentage just shoots down below the table. You're not really going to have much of a chance, and especially with both of those VMAX in the prize cards, there's not going to be a good response to Andrew just taking knockouts turn after turn.
It's one of those things that you can't really beat yourself up for. You know, I discarded an Eternatus VMAX, even though I'm running the 3/3 thicker line.
He didn't know.
And yeah, once everything came down to the wire, it ends up that they're both in the prizes. And this is a deck that doesn't take prizes super quickly, super easily. You're just trying to lock your opponent down, slow the game down, and let the poison do its work. But without any additional threat pressure with the Eternatus VMAX, there was nothing really to pivot into around the Galarian Weezing to at least take some prizes to bring yourself back into the game.
Now we're going to see the Serena. It seems pretty obvious to bring up that Eternatus V with the Dark Energy. You just kind of want to hedge your bets against much anything, and you do get the knockout with that Tempest Dive.
And the Lugia VSTAR still survives the poison. Just a little bit, right?
You would have to retreat this turn. It gets knocked out going in.
Yeah, because it's still, even though the Galarian Weezing's not in the active, the severe poison effect still augments the damage that the poison counter is still doing every turn.
So it is a liability to take this knockout and attack, but you're down to 2 prize cards left. We know Andrew has the last boss's orders in hand that was grabbed from the prize cards, and you can set up that Lugia V on the bench to take a knockout on something like a Crobat even.
Yeah, there's the 3 powerful colorless energy attached and a double turbo being attached to the Archeops. Andrew's in a position where he can set up a bunch of different attackers, and by pre-attaching that energy, you're covering some of your retreats as well. So he is already planning ahead to make sure he can close out this game 100% after taking these 2 prizes.
And there is that Tempest Dive double knockout for both players.
And so Brandon does promote first in this scenario, correct?
Yes, because the poison will be in between turns knockout. So you'll have a little bit more information here from Andrew's side of things.
All right, so now we wait. What does Brandon promote here? It's just going to be Galarian Weezing again. Wait, we're double checking the damage here.
No, I think they're just making sure who promotes first.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's not officially knocked out yet until the promotion happens and then the turn changes. And you know, shout out to the judges as well for making sure that this every step by step is followed. It lets you follow along with the action a little bit cleaner, make sure that nothing gets lost in the mix here.
And I do believe Andrew still will have to draw his 2 prize cards first as well before getting to promote the Pokemon. So you get a little bit more information that way as well.
Still plenty of time left on the clock as well, 23 minutes. So Brandon's going to take his time to figure out what's the best thing to promote, with the gate kind of closing around his ability to take this second game. 1 Eternatus V down. And now with some prizes coming to Brandon Salazar, we are going to see that Eternatus VMAX come through, but will it be too late?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that gate is more than closed. They locked it and threw away the key. As Brandon, going down to 4 prize cards, will be able to pick up the Eternatus VMAX, but will need a ton of cards to try to even get a Dread End.
It's hard to even think about what to do. The Radiant Sneaslers in the discard pile. A couple of Crobat Vs have already been used. Galarian Weezing is going to be promoted here. Still has a fat retreat cost of 3. So, and the 1 Hiding Darkness was already used earlier as well, right?
I believe that was the last game, but it won't matter too much. Brandon does play a heavy count of switching effects. 1 switch, 2 Escape Rope. I believe there's an Escape Rope in hand.
Okay. So there's the evolution. Finally, Eternatus VMAX showing up, creating more bench spaces. Another Eternatus V could be benched. But that's just, again, with these Crobats especially, these are just easy prize cards that Andrew can take with that boss's orders. And this arena, these are all picked up off the prize cards finally, and is a perfect way to close out this game number 2. He's going to bench another Eternatus, trying to empty the hand as much as possible. Dark Asset for 3 more cards, gets Temple of Sinnoh, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, a
And what
couple
are
of
the
them.
answers that Andrew still has access to?
Well, there's everything in hand. So it's all going to go to the bottom of the deck. The Pumpkaboo, the boss's orders, I think the Lost Vacuum still as well. And it's going to have to rely on another 4 cards from Marnie here to see if Andrew could pull through. He also needs the Lugia VSTAR. Granted, with the 3 powerful energies, if the Temple of Sinnoh's bumped, you can take a knockout on a Crobat V.
So maybe we get, like, what is it, top deck Irida to grab the Lost Vacuum? I don't know.
We'll need the boss here as well.
Yeah, because we got to get the Galarian Weezing out of the picture. Bring up a 2-prize Pokemon. Brandon rearranging the bench here so we can get a better look how many dark Pokemon are in play.
No, I want all 8 in one line.
just put them off screen.
I want
no
it
big
falling
deal.
off the table.
So Dark Patch is going to set up the Eternatus VMAX. Dread End now is up and running, but still 4 prizes left to take. When you're playing a deck that wants to kind of keep the opponent under control, you don't run as many cards that allow you to pull up key targets and get those key knockouts. Manaphy is poisoned, 4 damage counters onto it. We've got double evolution incense to thin a little bit down, but no primal turbos as well this turn. No excited heart because of the neutralizing gas.
You want to know something funny, Adam? So Andrew is only able to deal 110 damage with Speed Wing. Remember on the first turn of the game when Andrew could have Rain Splashed for 20 damage?
Oh my
that
God.
would have left the Galarian Weezing with 110 HP left. He could have closed this game out with an Archeops attack, but now is forced to go Lugia, it seems.
Unbelievable. Missing that little bit of chip damage on the Rain Splash in the final moments here for game number 2. Archeops just going to be found off the Evolution Incense within the deck a little bit and get a nice shuffle after that Marnie. Still trying to find an out against the Temple of Sinnoh. And a means to get around this Galarian Weezing. Still a very tall ask here.
Yeah,
manually retreats the Manaphy.
You're going to take that knockout and hope Brandon does not have the combination of cards to take a knockout on your Lugia VSTAR here. And this way you will be able to get rid of the Temple Sinnoh.
All right, Temple's down. Galarian Weezing's down. 1 prize card left for Andrew. Brandon Salazar does have Eternatus VMAX in play finally, but not a lot of support otherwise. Here comes the Eternatus. And what was the math once more, Jeremy? To
270 damage if there's 8 bench Pokemon. Then you need a Galarian Zigzagoon Headbutt Tantrum, so you can deal 10 damage to that Lugia V-Star because that's 280. And then with that V-Guard energy, you need the Temple of Sinnoh. But I believe he has the last copy in hand. Maybe it got shuffled in the turn prior, but it's either that or the Choice Belt.
So here it is. Zigzagoon being brought up. So there's the ping. Then we need the Temple of Sinnoh.
And then 1 more dark Pokemon, preferably a Crobat V, so you can draw into some cards, maybe Judge or Marnie Andrew yet again.
So he's thinking about the line. He's calculating the numbers. Has probably been in this situation several times this weekend. Knows the numbers to take down a Lugia V-Star with the V-Guard. After the Zigzagoon is officially grabbed, we get a nice shuffle of the deck. And Brandon still trying to keep in this game, but doesn't go for the full knockout quite yet. We still need 1 more Pokemon, and there is Marnie. 5 cards, very high chance of finding it.
Not yet. 5th card here. Quick Ball.
Quick Ball.
That is the dark Pokemon to finish the combo here and get the knockout on Lugia V-Star. Well, oh, wait, no. There's still no Temple of Sinnoh or Choice Belt. You need a Quick Ball for a Crobat, and then Crobat into the last piece.
So we can evolve the Galarian Weezing onto the Coughing to get 1 card out of the hand.
Has Crobat already been played this turn?
No, not this turn. So we're still good to go. He's double-checking the discard pile, making sure that there is another Crobat out. Still has to find the Temple of Sinnoh off of 1 more dark asset. This is where Crobat is at its strongest. Who knows, maybe the Forest Sealstone comes through as well. I thought he was only on 1 copy, but he is on 2.
There's no Crobat left. He doesn't have the knockout. V-Guard energy. What are you doing?
So the Lugia VSTAR is going to survive against the Dread End. With all these dark Pokemon working together, it's not enough. Brandon sees that the math isn't right. He's going to go for the escape rope.
Or not.
Second guessing it. So many resources gone. One of those Crobat Vs, yeah, that's right. He bossed up the one with the Forest Seal Stone. One of the Crobat Vs was knocked out. When these games go long, it's hard to keep track of these resources, Jeremy. But here we go. Just a little bit of damage onto the Lugia VSTAR. It is still alive and kicking.
Let's
and
get
now
a
we
look
see
at
the
this
boss.
hand. We need a way to get Lumineon. Quick ball in the hand that will be able to fetch Lumineon. Lumineon will find the boss's orders. And with that, Adam, Andrew Hedrick, the two-peat, the back-to-back.
The back-to-back champion, Lumineon V, into boss's orders, brings back up a Crobat V for the knock. This is our Knoxville Masters finalist.
Yeah, regional champion yet again in just a matter of 2 weeks. Can anyone stop him? Andrew Hedrick showing the world